How do you keep your house clean when you have a messy spouse or messy kids? What? How are you supposed to do that? I know, we get to talk about it today. Hi there, I'm Angela Brown, and this is Ask a House Cleaner. This is a show where you get to ask a house cleaning question, and I get to help you find an answer. Now, today's show is brought to us by mycleaningconnection.com, and this is a resource hub with blogs and books and different YouTube shows and uniforms and cleaning supplies and detergents and equipment and all kinds of things that you would need as a homeowner or a professional house cleaner, or even if you're an Airbnb host and you do your own turnover service. There's gobs of stuff. So check it out at mycleaningconnection.com. All right, on to today's show. How do you keep a clean house when you have a messy spouse or messy kids? Because as house cleaners, we know how to clean, but our family members may not know how to clean, and they might create more work for us. So we brought an expert on our show today to share with us some solutions on how to make that happen. Now, our guest of the day is so qualified to answer this question. She's from the USSR. She came as an attorney. And when she got to America, she decided to build the American dream. And in 2015, she founded a cleaning company called Super Maids, which is the #1 rated maid service in all of Las Vegas, Nevada. Then she won the Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year for 2019 for Nevada. And she won the Woman of Distinction Awards for 2019 for Entrepreneur of the Year. Then she grossed over $1 million the first 2 years in business. And she's got over 4,500 clients. And now she's building a national franchise of Superb Maids. Like, whoa, get out of my way because she's coming through, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Elena Ledoux. All right, so joining us today is Elena Ledoux, and she is very successful, and she's joining us today to give us the inside scoop about what happens when you're a very tidy person, and as house cleaners we are, and maybe your spouse or your kids are not.
Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for having me. A very important disclaimer: my husband is not sloppy. My kids are actually some of them, or occasionally. But the advice that I have and the tips is that they would apply whether or not it's the spouse or the kids. The #1 tip I would say is try to contain them, the offending person in your family, to one area of your house, right? So for the kids, for example, I would have a kid room, and then all the toys must stay in that room. They are not allowed to drag out Legos, which is like a never-ending bonanza of a mess. We do try to keep them contained. Once everything's in that room, you close the door, and occasionally you can tell them to clean the room, right? But at the very least, it's not scattered. It's like all over your house. And the same applies for your spouse. If they have a man cave and they're very messy, just keep them down in the basement, or like a woman cave or hobby room, something that's away from the main like living areas, and that would save yourself a lot of nerve cells and aggravation.
What about common areas of the house? Like, let's say that in your bathroom, for example, there's toothpaste all over the mirror and on the vanity, and there's shaving cream stuff that's dribbling down the sides of the cabinets, and it's not tidy, and you keep cleaning it up, and it just keeps unraveling itself.
For toothpaste in a bathroom, like it depends on your situation, but I would say majority of aggravation with a messy spouse or kids comes from clutter. So if you have cluttered surfaces, then it's an instant stressor. It's whether it's like obvious stressor, or kind of in the back stressing you out, like a low level stress, a background all the time. So the idea is to create the environment in your home where it's not cluttered. And so if, let's say, your countertop is bare, and then there's one toothpaste that's kind of like out there, and it's not a big deal, even if it's like a little bit of toothpaste on the counter or whatever. But imagine if your countertop is full of things and whatever, different bottles, and on top of that you have that, then you like just want to pull your hair out, right? So my advice would be, make sure that every horizontal surface in your house has no more than 3 objects on it, right? I think it's one of the Japanese rules for a great environment, ergonomic environment. So that applies to any counter space, including the bathrooms, right? So only 3 objects. And that way it will allow you to survive your spouse much better. And then if they see that it's such a pristine surface, they themselves may be a little bit more self-conscious about creating that mess, right? Because we're kind of like social animals and we respond to visual cues. So if the environment around us is a mess, we tend to just kind of be more cavalier about our habits. And if it's clean and everything is like perfect, and then you may not be as as easy or willing to create more mess.
So that's hilarious that you mentioned that, because one of the things that happens in my house is we have a little dish drainer that you can rinse your things off and put them inside. And one day I decided to dry out the inside of the sink. And my husband came in with his dishes and he saw that the sink was dry and he didn't want to mess up the sink. So he stacked all of his dishes on top of each other and made like this tower of dishes so that he wouldn't have to mess up the beautiful dry sink. I was like, no, 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 that defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, what's interesting is my dad once told me a story because he used to. We grew up in Soviet Union, and over there, there's no such a strong culture of like keeping things, especially public spaces, tidy. So if you smoke, you just throw, the cigarette butt. Whereas here it'll be horrifying, right? So he grew up just kind of like throwing stuff around, and then one time he got stationed while in the military. He got stationed overseas, and it was one of those European countries where it's like quite the opposite. It's very pristine and perfect, right? Everything is very, very clean. And so he's walking down the street smoking a cigarette, and then he threw the butt. And then he saw that that was the only dirty thing in the whole space around him. And he became very self-conscious. So he actually bent over, picked it up, and put it in a trash can. If it worked on my dad, who's such a creature of habit, I think it will work on your spouse as well. Just create that clean, clutter-free space, and then they would be less likely to create trash.
Well, and I think that's so important because when you change the environment, you start changing the perception of the environment. And people start saying, oh, this is the new norm. Everything is clean now. And so I better tidy up after myself. So there's a lot of that going on as well. How do you pick your battles? Like if you're trying to decide, I don't know, this is what I'm going to let go, or no, 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 I'm going to try to change your behavior on this one.
This is my second marriage now, and I never try to battle to begin with. So it's all about kind of you do the best you can. You care about each other, so you don't want to create a burden on each other, right? So both of us are. I'm not gonna say we're obsessive, but we're both pretty good about keeping things clean. Although my husband is very athletic, so sometimes what happens, he exercises a lot, right? So he goes out, he travels a lot, so he can come in and he can have bags or like wet towels or something like that. So literally the only messy things he does, and he does clean up after himself as well. My job is to make his job easier. And so if I know there's natural spots where he's likely to like throw his things down, there should be like a basket, like give him a laundry basket that's big, like he doesn't have to struggle, that doesn't have a lid, right? Just like open basket that anybody, and guys, they like basketball. So just like anything they can toss things into, just give them that opportunity. And don't limit yourself to just one laundry basket, right? If it could be a bedroom and a bathroom, wherever other area that they, deposit their stuff, just like give them something to deposit into. I find that anything looks so much better if it's contained in a container, right? So you know that too. If they have a space where there's like a little, like they collect like little nails and coins or whatever, just give them a tray or give them a basket or something in that space. And as long as everything is in that basket, it's not going to irritate you. It's not going to look cluttered or dirty. Cover it up, it looks so clean. It doesn't get dusty, and then you're all good.
Those are some amazing tips. Thank you so much. And if our listeners or our viewers want to find out more about you and hire you in the Las Vegas area, how do they go about doing that?
Well, we are on number one on Google searches. So for house cleaning, for maids, for best maids, for everything. But you can go on supermaids.net. You'll see everything about our company. You can actually click through on our insurance and license. You can see photos of our staff. You can see cleaning tips.
And that was Elena Ledoux. Every time I talk to her, I tell you what, the brilliance and the magic happens. This woman knows her stuff. All right, so if you found this helpful, please pass it on to a friend. And if you like, check the show notes because there's all kinds of goodness from everything that we talked about in today's show notes. And if we've earned your subscription, please subscribe. And until we meet again, leave the world a cleaner place than when you found it.